jumps.
I'll share my screen and then we'll begin. Okay, let me know if you guys can see my screen and then we'll proceed.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Hi everyone. Hope everyone's having good time. I'll try to keep it like this, right? So as Shashi mentioned, the topic for my session here is metadata is the new gold mine, right? Now, before beginning into the session, before deep diving, I'll quickly try to intrigue you guys into why you should be interested about this session, right? So when we talk about Power BI, right, there are typically 2 to 3 use cases which most of the people use, right? For example, one could be Power BI consumer, and I'm talking about Power BI here, but feel free to replace Power BI by any BI tool, okay? Few users of Power BI are the consumers who will see the report, who will find the insight, and then they'll take decisions, right? Typically business users. Others would be Power BI developers, right? Mostly 99% of the people I'm assuming here would be falling in the same category. Their job or their task is to create reports, right? But there is a third category which is very untapped in the market, right? That is creating products, creating solutions and accelerators on top of Power BI or any BI tool, right? So you can actually build your own solutions, products and sell them to the clients or sell them to the market, right? And that is possible only if you know how Power BI works under the hood. You can only build products on top of Power BI if you know how the Power BI metadata works. Okay. Before beginning to the session, I'll quickly show you a few of the products that I'm talking about. Right? And hey, why should I even learn about metadata, right? I already know Power BI. So before going into the slides, I'll show you a few of the sample tools which I have built and which you guys can also build if you guys focus on what I'm going to teach you guys here. Okay. First one, for example, is this Power BI Data Studio, Power BI Assistant, right? This tool I built, which helps you to analyze your Power BI data models. And you can simply upload your Power BI data models. I'll go with the sample data model, and you don't even need to open Power BI as a tool. And by the way, I'm using Mac. Mac doesn't support Power BI. And you get to see everything. You get to see the model name, data model name, the size of data model, the number of tables, partitions, the relationships, measures, and columns. In the bottom, I'm also showing you the EID diagram of the data model. If you go to the relationships, you see all the relationships. If you go to the tables, you get to see all the table information, which you won't even be able to find in Power BI. For example, the power table names, the number of rows present in tables, the column size, the relationship size, is it like when was the last partition refreshed, things like this, right? Everything which is mentioned here is metadata. For example, how many measures are created in your report, right? Maybe you want to create a documentation, maybe you want to create a catalog, right? Maybe sometimes this use case happens a lot that some data engineering team is changing one column and you want to do the impact analysis, right? Impact analysis as in which measure of mine will be impacted, right? That you can do very easily if you have this view, right? Here I'm showing each column and in which measures that column is used, right? So one of the use case of extracting metadata and building a product on top of it. My favorite is this one, which is best practice analyzer, right? I uploaded a Power BI data model. Again, I am using sample data model and it scored your Power BI data model and it's telling me, hey boss, you just followed 72% of the best practices. And I have written the best practice rules here. Few of the rules are for maintenance, few for the tax expression, few for the naming convention, performance, formatting, and modeling. I have scraped all these rules. I have scraped your data model. I matched the rules and I'm telling you, are you following those rules or not? For example, I'm saying you don't follow 2 rules in maintenance. You can actually go here and see that, okay, one of the rule was every table should have a relationship and this rule is not followed in your report or data model. You can also click on that rule and then you'll get to know, hey, this table is not following that rule, right? So again, you can do n number of things. You can like generate a documentation of your entire data model within a single click. And then of course, because LLMs are everywhere, so you can also connect to OpenAI and ask like the very relevant questions about your data model, right? But so yeah, the topic is metadata is the new gold mine. My name is Sahil. I am a senior manager, analytics manager in Singbird. I'm also innovation lead in Singbird. I am from Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. We won't just talk theory. We'll talk about some use cases also, and we'll talk about some API endpoints also that you can just start using after the session. Agenda will be, I have tried to keep it simple. So first I'll talk about Power BI metadata. What is it? How do you get it? Why you should learn it, right? Second will be, how does a Power BI file works under the hood, right? PBI file is nothing but some text file under the hood. I will try to see that. Third, we'll talk about REST APIs because some of the REST APIs give us very huge potential of building something on top of it. So we'll see that also. And the last part, we'll see, hey, how do we build products? How do we do some automations on top of Power BI reports? Okay. So this will be the session agenda. Feel free to pause me anywhere if you feel you have a question. Now, what is metadata? I told you guys that this is very useful. You can build some products, you can sell it to the companies or the clients, right? But what exactly is metadata? So let's say I have a Power BI report. It's a sales report. You have columns like sales. You have a KPI called cost. You have a KPI for discount, right? Sales is, let's say, 10 million. Cost is 5 million. Discount is again any X by Z%. Now the numbers which I just told you guys, the 10%, 10 million is sales, 5 million is cost. These are the data points. There are two types of data in your report or a model, right? One is the actual data, which is representing what the business is doing. Second is metadata. Metadata is a data about your data. Okay. It's a information that describes how your model, how your report is built. Okay. Now, let's say you don't understand what I told you. So when you build a report, right, there will be few things which will remain constant. For example, there will be a theme file which will be implemented by Power BI. There will be some images, some logos which will be imported automatically by Power BI when you create a report. When I talk about data models, right? Let's say I have a table. So if I go to Google Sheets, give me a second. Let's say we have a sales table. Okay. So I'll have sales ID, sales, maybe cat ID. And let's say I have subcategory, right? Let's say, and we have sales finally. Let's say this is my table. Now this table can have some values, maybe C1, C2, and SC1, SC2, and then we have sales, right? Now, this is the actual data present in my table. When I talk about metadata, metadata is a data about your data, information about your data. That means metadata could mean how many columns do I have in a table? Then the number of columns are these. Then I'll say, okay, I have 4 columns in my table. Metadata could also mean what are the data types of these columns. So for example, this is integer, this is varchar, this is varchar, and this is integer also, right? So these things, for example, the names, the data types, and there could be few other metadata. For example, is this column hidden or not, right? This could be flag. Let's say these are hidden, these are not hidden. All these are also data points, but they are not representing my actual data. They are representing how my data is structured in my report or a data model. This is called metadata. Okay. If I go back to the slide, now this metadata could be of various kind of assets, right? But as asset, when you work in Power BI, asset could be a Power BI report. A report can have a different metadata. For example, again, I'll go through it in future, maybe in next 5 to 10 minutes. When you talk about data model will have metadata about how many tables are there, the columns, the measures, the relationships. When we talk about workspaces, workspaces will have metadata like, hey, who is viewing my workspace? Who is downloading a report from my workspace? Who is refreshing a data model in my workspace, right? This is the meaning of metadata, right? Now, if you understand how this metadata works, apart from solving or building a product on top of it, you can also solve few of the governance issues, for example, because again, I'm not quoting these numbers, KPIs just from thin air. These are from the Gartner reports. 90% of the governance issues that happens in the Power BI tenants happens because of ungoverned metadata. Okay. To solve this, we have 50 to 100 REST APIs that you can leverage to build and solve the governance also on top of it. So think of metadata as operating system of your BI. Okay, so don't think of Power BI as a from consumer standpoint that, hey, I'll just open Power BI, click few buttons, and then that's all. That's all about Power BI. No, it has a lot more about that also, apart from that also. Okay. Now coming to the real meat. How does Power BI creates metadata? Okay. So whenever you see a Power BI report, right? Typically, how you see is, for example, I have this report, which is a Power, not this one. Let me go back. Let's say this is a sample Power BI report which I downloaded. Typically, how you work with this is you will click on it, this will open in Power BI, it will start a VPAX, SSRS service, and then it will load the file and you will be able to see the visuals. But under the hood, every Power BI file is a zip file which is having XMLs and JSONs. That's it. Okay. Now, if I have to prove it to you also, this is a Power BI file. If I quickly rename it, if I make PBIX to Oops, my bad. Should have named zip, but let me do it again. If I make it zip, give me a sec. I think I need to download again. Yes, give me a second. Let me download a fresh one because I think I messed up the structure. Power BI sample file. Power BI by default provides you some sample files if in case you are not aware. So we'll download maybe the first one, and I should have this. And now I'll create a copy because what if we mess up the file again? So now, perfect. Now in this file, what I was telling you is if you rename your PBIX to zip, okay, got it. So we are having the same name. Maybe I'll name it something else also. And then if I name it zip, perfect. Now this is a zip file, right? Now if you double click and see what's present in this zip file, this is the content of that Power BI report, right? Whatever you see on your visual on the screen, the backend is this. Okay. Now there are few files present. I'll tell you what are the purpose of these files, but just to give you a brief glimpse, if you click on report, your entire report structure, entire report metadata is present in this layout file, in this one single file, which is a JSON file. Okay. Now, if I show you how this file looks, what I'll do is I will copy this. I will create a new folder and name it demo, and I'll go here, and now I'll try to open this file. Okay, so maybe I'll open in notes. Let me see. No, it won't allow. So give me a second. I will open in my IDE. I'll click on open, desktop, demo, and this is my file. Okay, so whatever report you were building on Power BI looks like this in the backend. If I format this, format the document, this is your single JSON file. Now, you might argue that, hey, Sahil, how is this my report? My report was a visual, right? My report was bar chart, my KPI cards present, but no. See the metadata. If I start collapsing everything, if I collapse this is nothing but your Power BI report in text file. Okay. Power BI by default adds metadata. This is a JSON file, by the way. If you guys don't know, JSON is nothing but a combination of keys, colon, values. Okay. So it tells me which theme is used in my Power BI report. It tells me the sections and the pods. If I show you the sections is nothing but report pages. Now, if I have 3 sections here, that means my Power BI report has 3 pages. Now, if I want to see what is present in my first page, for example, I'll expand this. Okay. Now, in a report page, you can have visuals, right? Now, each visual is present in the visual containers. Now, this is my page I'm telling you. And what metadata is Power BI capturing for me? It's capturing the IDs because, hey, it's relevant for the systems. It's capturing the names, the filters which I'm applying on my report, the width and height of my report page, the configurations, maybe some theme is applied, some data source filters are applied, that is captured here. The actual name of Power BI page, which is renamed here because, hey, you can anytime rename your Power BI report page name. And then the display option, that what is it the first page, second page, or the third page? Now, as I told you, one report page can have multiple visuals, right? The visuals are captured in an array called visual containers. Now, if you expand this, all the visual which you will be placing in Power BI report, that could be KPI card, maybe waterfall, bar chart, pie chart, everything is nothing but object in visual containers. I'm collapsing this because I have to explain you how this works. So give me some time. Damn, there are a lot of visuals. Should not have this many visuals, by the way, in a page, but it's all right. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, I think there are a lot, but maybe I'll try to show you by these many visuals only. So if you see, I'm telling you guys that every object which is present inside visual container is nothing but one visual. And the beauty of Power BI and beauty of any BI system is this metadata will be very standardized. That means every visual will have this JSON, which will have these keys and thus respective values. That means if I come to this JSON file, I'll be able to get what is my report name, how many pages were there in my report, how many visuals were present in each report, and each visual also, I can get to know what was the x-axis of my visual, what was the y-axis of my visual, what was the width and height of my visuals, what was the configuration of my visual, was that any filter applied or not, which query it is sending to my Power BI data model, and was there any data transformation applied or not. Okay. This level of metadata is captured for each and every visual. Okay. Now, if I come back to my slide, this is what I was trying to tell you guys here, that a Power BI file is nothing but a zip file. It's a, if you rename a PBX to zip, you will get things like data mashup, data model, report, and report will have folders like, or files like layout.json, static resources. So all your logos, the PNGs, the GIFs which you have used in the report will be present in static resources. You will have some security bindings also. So your data model level information will be present in data mashup and data model, report level will be presented here. Okay. And if it hasn't clicked you already, I can, with just this single slide of information, I can build a product that can take Power BI file as input. It can rename, I can write a Python code that can rename this PBIX to zip, and then I can create a documenter of a report at least. Documenter could be, I can get to know which report is it, how many pages, how many visuals, what was the wireframe of that visual without even opening Power BI. That is the beauty of metadata. Okay. If I go ahead, the most important file which you will see here, I was just showing you guys, was layout.json. This is a report blueprint. Okay. So what happens is whenever you add a visual in your report, a JSON block is added in the visual container. I was just showing you guys, right? So if you add a new bar chart, this single consistent metadata block will be added in the layout.json. That will have x axis, y axis, z axis, width, height, config, and filters, right? Now, like again, I'll keep giving you a few more examples of how you can use this information. Now imagine your company is saying that, hey Sahil, I'm changing my logo of my company. Can you please replace logo of all the 10,000 reports of Power BI? If I know this information that every PBI file is nothing but a zip file, and this zip file has different folders, and one of the folders will be resource packages. So if you say this, there will be a report and there will be registered packages and resource packages, and all the logos, all the images are present in this registered resources. Now, if I want to replace the logo of all the 10,000 reports in one single shot, I'll create an accelerator that will take input of 10,000 Power BI files. Yes, you can do that. And I will rename all, again, I can run the parallel processing, and I'll like just rename all the PBI files to zip, go inside, pass the layout.json, pass the report folder, go inside image1.png, replace it with image2.png, which will be the new logo, and that's it. My work is solved. If you don't know this, you would have to do it manually, right? This is the beauty of knowing the metadata. This is just another use case you can build, right? Now, this was the very small glimpse of how a report is built in Power BI, right? Like it will let you do stuff offline. You don't even need to hit APIs, right? I'm not using any API. Even if you're offline, you can build these kind of things, right? You just need to rename the Power BI file. But Power BI is very generous, and they offers us few of the REST APIs also to extract some metadata, because you don't work with offline Power BI files all the time, right? If I have my 10,000 reports, ideally those reports will be sitting in my Power BI server, right? Power BI service. It won't be like have the 10,000 report downloaded and then work on it. So the first part which I just showed you guys was how do you extract the metadata from offline files. There could be use cases for that. But the bigger chunk of the use case is when your Power BI files are sitting in your Power BI service and then you want to build something on top of it. That you can do only when you know how do you use Power BI REST APIs. Now, what is REST API? If you're not from software engineering background, REST API means, so whenever let's say I'm launching a software, I'm launching a SaaS product, I'm launching competitor of Power BI. If I want other people, other developers to integrate their software with me, with my product, I will need to create some endpoints. Think of endpoint as a website that will help them to get the metadata programmatically. For example, if I want to know how many reports are present, in my workspace, there could be two ways. One way would be I will open Power BI, app.powerbi.com. I'll go to that workspace and I'll be shown the list of reports. And I'll just copy everything one by one and paste them in Notepad. Another way is because this is a manual way, there should be a programmatic way also to interact with Power BI, and that is what is enabled by Power BI REST APIs, right? Now, I hope you understood what is a REST API. Again, it's a very big concept, but just giving you a glimpse of what exactly is the purpose of this, right? So every company builds the API so that we can interact with their assets programmatically. Okay. Now, what can I do with API? So you can do n number of stuff. For example, you want to see, let's say you have a Power BI tenant, Power BI server, and you want to know how many workspaces are present in that server. You can do that very easily because there is an API for that that is called workspaces API. So you just write slash v1.0, v1 is the API version, and then you write my org. My org would be whatever organization you're working in, and then you write slash groups. Groups means workspaces in the API's world, right? You can do a number of other stuff also. You can do things like, hey, I want to know how many data sets are present in my Power BI workspace. I want to know maybe what is the schema of my tables present in the workspace and more fancy stuff. You can also, without opening Power BI, you can also run your DAX queries against your Power BI data models. And this is, by the way, how the things like tabular editor tools like DAX Studio works, right? They just use the XML endpoint to execute DAX on your data models. So for all these things, we have the API endpoints, right? For the schema, we have you just write the data sets, you pass the ID of your data set, and then you write the tables. For the data sets, you just pass the workspace ID, and then you write the data sets. For executing DAX, you just write execute DAX queries, and in the body, you pass whatever DAX you want to execute, right? Again, n number of more useful stuff. You can do see how many reports are present by just writing slash reports. You can also see the activity events. For example, I want I want to know how many people are using my report. Okay, because I'm building it so that other people can use it, right? Adoption is a great success metric for me. Now, how can I know that if people are using my report or not? I can use activity events. Activity events track how many people are using my report. In what way are they engaging with my report, or they are just coming and exporting the data, or they are just using subscriptions on top of my report? All that information can be captured from here. There's a thing called refresh history also. If I want to know, like, when was my report last refreshed and when was the last refresh failed, things like that. We have endpoint for that also, that is refreshes. I can also see how many report users are there by just writing slash users. Now, this is theory, okay? This won't intrigue you. The part that will intrigue you is if you use this API endpoints very cautiously, you can build a very cool product. Okay. So, oops, my bad. So this was one use case which you can solve by the Power BI REST APIs. Few other use cases, okay, because they are very trending nowadays. For example, conversational BI, right? Every company is on top of it because every client has a budget for that. So let's say you want to build a conversational BI. What is a conversational BI? Let's say you don't want to use Power BI dashboard. It's boring. It takes a lot of click to get me insight. But if you can create a chatbot that can connect to your Power BI data models and give you answers. So the flow I want you to create is create a chatbot that will ask in that chatbot, user will ask a question about their data in NLP, means in a simple natural language, English, Hindi, doesn't matter. Based on that question, I want you to show the results to the user. If you want to solve this use case, the flow will be first, again, use any user interface, maybe use Claude Desktop or anything works. Let the user answer, like ask their question. Then based on that question, if he is asking, if I am typing, hey, give me a list of workspaces, I will directly call slash workspaces slash groups API, right? Or if my user is typing a question that what is my total sales, and my chatbot should ask him, hey, which dataset do you want to ask this question? Then he will say, hey, my sales 2024 dataset is there. I will get the dataset by slash datasets and I'll get the tables. To find total sales, I know that I'll need to do sum of sales. I need to run a DAX. For that DAX also, I will use slash dataset slash, I'll pass the dataset ID. I'll use the execute queries API and I'll run the DAX, right? So just a very simple use case of conversational BI. It's very easy to solve if you know a basic of Python and if you know how the APIs work. Okay, so just a FYI that talking to your Power BI data model is very easy. And by the way, this is how the MCPs work. MCPs, you would have heard a lot of fancy stuff around it, but this is nothing but they have given a new gateway to interact with the APIs. Okay, and this is also how Copilot works, right? Copilot is nothing but executing queries on top of a data model. How do you execute a query? You use the slash execute queries endpoint. Okay. Going to the next use case, that was PBI rationalizer. I was just showing you guys that you have hundreds of reports, right, across workspaces. How do you know which ones are used? How do you know, hey, which ones are outdated? Because every report, if the report is having refresh, right, and no one is using it, it's a real cost to your company, right? For that, you can use these leverage these API endpoints. For example, you can list the number of workspaces. You can extract the metadata of a report by slash reports API. You can slash a dataset metadata, refresh history, activity event, subscription, user access, and dataset refresh. All these APIs could be used, and then you can join them together to build a cool solution on top of it, right? This helps in the governance. It helps you to find which reports are stale, which reports are not used, and then you can delete those reports. Okay. Just to talk a bit more about activity events, this is also a category of API endpoints, and this is very useful, okay? Because activity events you things like who is using your report, when are they using that report, how many viewers do you have, when did they last use your report, did they share your report or not, did they delete your report or not, are they using your report or they are just using Excel to connect to your report, are they even interacting with your report, right? So whenever you build a report, right, you're building it to solve some problem and you want it to be adopted well in your organization. Now, typically companies do not track it, but right now people are trying to do that. Companies are trying to trace the ROI of a report because every report has an investment, right? They are paying the developers, and you know how costly Power BI is. That means someone should use it. Otherwise, why am I building the report? So companies now are trying to get the ROI of a report. How do I track what is the ROI of my report? If I can track, is my report well adopted or not? I can quickly say, hey, the ROI is good, right? How do you track if a report is adopted or not? This is your go-to endpoint. Use the activity events. This helps you answer all these things. And then, of course, you can like get the audit metalog and then just get the answer, which I was just telling you guys. Okay. Few caveats, by the way, by default, it saves just 30 days of data in the audit logs, data sets. If you want to have more longer detailed activity events, you have to build some custom pipelines in the backend. But by default, Power BI doesn't give you that. Okay. So depending on what use case you're trying to solve, you can mix and match this application, the kind of metadata. Few could be solved by offline metadata. Few problems could be solved by REST APIs. Few problems could be solved by activity events. Few problems could be solved by this Power BI embeddings, right? So, but if you know that these things are possible, it like opens a world of opportunities for you, right? Again, can keep on talking about use cases. For example, nowadays companies are moving from Tableau to Power BI, for example, or maybe any one product to other product, right? For that, we have to use another metadata engagement. So if you do not know, there is a library called TOM, Tabular Object Model Library. Okay. This helps you to create data models automatically. That is right. Okay. I can today open my code editor and without even opening a Power BI report, I can build a data model. And these kind of use cases are also possible with the help of metadata. So let's say the use case you're trying to solve is you want to migrate from Tableau to Power BI. How will you solve it? So you'll first connect to your workspace, whatever workspace you want to create Power BI data model. You will create a semantic model. How will you create a semantic model? There's a TOM library. In that library, there are functions available to create a data model. Now, to create a data model, you will need few information like what table should I create, what relationship should I create. And since you already have a Tableau data model, you will extract that metadata from Tableau. You will import and translate the data model information to your Power BI data model information, and then it will help you to automatically translate a Power BI data model to Tableau data model to Power BI data model. Right? And then of course you can define relationships, parameters, sources, tables, columns, and then publish it. So with this, you can build things like, hey, you don't need to migrate your stuff manually. Just have a Excel data that will do this steps and it's solved, right? Again, it won't solve 100% of the migration, but it solves 70 to 80% of the stuff, right? So use cases for the migrations are also possible with metadata. Here I'm just talking about Power BI because it's relevant for the session, but think of it of any BI tool or not even BI tool. I think of it as any data platform. Uh, yeah, few more use cases. You can build some. One use case could be, hey, add a logo to my 50 reports. How will you do that? You do that with the help of, I told you, right? Power BI is nothing but a zip file. So export the zip, rename it, replace the file image with a new image. This is the JSON block you'll need to add, and just write a simple Python script, and your job will be done. You can do things like bulk formatting that, hey, in every report, I'm using font size 12, but today for no reason, I want to use font size 22. Don't do it manually. Just write a theme.json, pass the Power BI files, rename PBX to zip, replace the JSON file. That's it. Okay. Static resource extraction. I'm not sure why Power BI is not solving it, but if there is a logo used in your Power BI report, there is a no way to extract it. If I want to give it to my wireframe designer, my UX UI guy, I can't do it. Power BI doesn't allow me. But the way you can do it is you rename your PBX to zip, you go to your static resources, and then you extract it. And if you can do it manually, you can do it with the help of code. And this is the code, right? You will just need to use a zip file, get the Power BI file, rename it to zip, iterate through all the files, and whatever file is ending with .png, .jpg, .svg, save them. And I'm early on time, but yeah, key takeaways, if you want to take away anything from here, is a Power BI file is nothing but a zip file. Okay. Whatever engagement interaction you do on your report when you drag a visual is captured in your zip file in report.layout.json. Whatever color changes, the formatting change, the aesthetic change which you apply on your report is captured in your theme.json. Okay. If you want to do anything offline on your Power BI, do with the help of this PBIX to zip conversion. If your report is not in offline, it's in Power BI service, REST API is your friend. Okay. If you want to get the adoption of your reports, activity events is your friend. Okay. If you want to do any automations on top of maybe aesthetics, theme.json is your friend. Okay, so these could be few takeaways, but again, can help you build a lot of good products because metadata is foundation of BI. And in this today's day and age, you already know that coding is democratized, right? You can use any LLM to create a code. If you understand this logic, building a product is not tough. Okay, and trust me, into like governance is going to be a big issue within few years because self-serve is going to win, right? Everyone wants to build a report with the help of Copilot. Now, if they're building a report, if my business user is building a report, I'm very sure he will not build a very good report, very optimized report. That is one thing. Second pain point would be if every business user is building a report, the report inventory, the list of reports in my company are going to inflate. And if they inflate, the governance is going to be an issue. And if the governance is issue, the only way you can solve governance is through Power BI data modeling, metadata analysis. That's it with me over LinkedIn. And if you have, and yeah, I'll take a pause.